We will be here to continue with those as they are quite important for us to have. We get into our final conversation at this hour. Mushina is in the hot seat. He is a general manager, General Insurance, Zamara Risk and Insurance Brokers Limited. And we're looking at e-mobility, sustainability, and ESG insurance solutions. He will tell us what all of those things are and how we can actually start to navigate these waters. Good morning, Fred.
Good morning. How are you?
Very well, thank you. How are you?
I'm fine.
Karibu sana.
Asante, and I'm happy to be here.
We're glad that you're here and to be able to work out these insights with and for you. But as you are here, we're going to put you to work. This morning, CT goes around the African continent, and every week he comes back from a different country with a basket full of proverbs. He's going to share that with you, and we would like you to then interpret that for us.
Okay.
We are in the final day of our proverbs from the People's Democratic Republic of Algeria. The proverb: a sensible enemy is better than a narrow-minded friend.
Well, I'd say I haven't traveled as much, but in my interpretation of that is more to do with the extent of knowledge that you can't get from listening to somebody rather than being broad-minded and not being attentive to the details of whatever they're saying. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, that's the great thing about interpretations, isn't it? As we keep saying.
That is the wonderful thing about interpretation.
Yeah.
Yes.
Essentially. So we're getting into a conversation this morning about when we hear these words, sometimes we think a totally different thing from when it comes to insurance. But the insurance conversation has to take us to a place whereby it becomes second nature because we see the benefits of it. But let's start off with, what we've introduced this morning when we talk about e-mobility, when we talk about sustainability, when we talk about ESG, some acronyms that we don't even know what they are. But let's start off with e-mobility when it comes to insurance and give us an introduction into this as we get through.
Okay, thank you very much. I think it's been a journey. As you say, the acronyms are what makes things very difficult for us. But I think I'll just take you step by step into what everything means, especially when we talk about e-mobility. Now, all of us maybe all have used a vehicle. Now, the vehicles that were used previous ages, I would say, are what we call internal combustion engine vehicles. Basically, the ones that have a fuel system where you put in, you go to a petrol station, put in petrol or diesel. Then we came to a scenario where we have hybrid vehicles. Some cases we see petrol engines combined with gas. Other instances where we have petrol engines combined with, which are also interconnected with the electric aspect of it. So now, finally, the dawn is here where we are saying, let's put all that aside, think about our environment and the gases that we're emitting, and think about electric vehicles, fully electric, no fuel on that vehicle. Yes.
Okay. So the e-mobility is now when we're talking about they're not combustible essentially, and now providing insurance for the same.
Definitely.
Okay. And how exactly does that work?
I would say one, it's in terms of first of all appreciating the concerns that have come from the public in terms of us taking care of Mother Nature. And with that, I think United Nations in essence has said, no, I think it's high time we started thinking strong and hard about what we need to do from an individual capacity and also from a corporate capacity. So as such, now we are seeing tendencies where people are saying, no, I really don't need to put petrol, use petrol or diesel. Let me, basically charge my vehicle and go around my duties day in, day out. So in essence, that is what it entails. And again, now as for us as the insurers, we are looking at a scenario where we need to also evolve in our mindset and also provide solutions that speak to the evolving risk nature. Because remember, traditionally, the kind of exposures that were there associated with fuel are slightly different from the exposures that we have that are associated with the electrical component, especially when using the roads.
Which begs the question now, of traditionally you have been covering ICE combustion vehicles in a certain way, but here we are adopting to EVs now, and it's a new area. So how are you adapting to that, and what are some of the areas that you are looking to coverage? Because when you talk about EVs, the battery pack is the biggest thing. Do you cover that as well?
Yes, we do. Again, I'll just go to the main aspect about it, which is looking at how you assess the risk. Now, first things first, when you talk about internal combustion engine vehicles, those ones, what happens in essence is that you go to a valuer who looks at the vehicle, the chassis frame, and the body. Okay, and based on that, gives a vehicle, given the external or the exterior view, maybe the how the body looks like, the kind of I would say the status of the engine in terms of how well it works, the suspension systems and all that, and attaches a value out of that. Now, when you talk about electric vehicles, now you unpack the chassis from the electrical component of it. Now, what happens that the traditional value, again, we look at the chassis and body bit of it and give a value. Now, the electrical component of it, in essence, basically is usually, lifted up and put there. So, in essence, the manufacturers at any one time give you a value of that. Okay? So, when you're doing insurances, those are two kind of aspects we look for when insuring electric vehicles. Now, traditionally, what we do, because again, remember by law, in Kenya, for you to use the road, you must have what you call that party liability. That's as per the Insurance Act, Cap 405, sorry. So, that is a basic one. Now, when it comes to the other aspects, now you insure the chassis, again, comprehensively for material damage as a result of fire, or mainly because of fire and other kind of losses, maybe collision and all that. Then the aspect of the battery, again, you may look at things of breakdown, things associated with breakdown, and again, also the instances of fire. So once you delink all those aspects, you're able to put a value and give comprehensive insurance for all aspects of an e-vehicle. Yes.
Are there enough people in terms of numbers that have then embraced, e-mobility solutions, vehicles being one of them, that then would need to be awareness building then around insurance that you can take to cover those?
Yeah, I think it's a journey for us because even globally, I think China has the highest uptake as per the 2024 numbers, followed by Europe and then US. When it comes to Africa, I think what we are seeing in terms of solutions on e-mobility is the largest uptake, especially in Kenya, is to do with the motor commercial public sector. Okay? Maybe one of us or two of us or all of us have ever hopped into one of these vehicles that are going, especially within the CBD region. So basically, that is where we have seen a lot of uptake. When it comes to individuals, I would say also not really much. What I've seen also is also what I would call the motorbikes that are being used by Uber and the rest. I think there's also a high uptake around that area. Yes, on motorbikes, yeah.
What are some of the risks associated with electric vehicles as compared to traditional vehicles?
Okay, now that's a very good question. I think first is understanding how the dynamics work. Now, when you look at an electric vehicle, first of all, the peak temperature is usually higher than a normal engine, the internal combustion engine vehicle. Normal internal combustion engine vehicles, or what we call ICVs, the peak is around 315 degrees. Now, when you talk about an electric vehicle, it doubles that. It's about 615. Now, when you talk about the source of ignition, especially for a fire, in case of a fire, there's what we call thermal runaway. Maybe in the battery system, one cell malfunctions and spreads the fire across. Okay, then there is an impact as a result of collision. Then last but not least, there's an issue to do with okay, sorry, I lost my thought process there.
Do not worry.
Yeah. So when you look at the ICVs on the extreme, most of the issues are to do with the fuel system and also the electric malfunctions. Yes.
Okay. Does the fact that let me paint a picture? Nairobi, when it rains, it floods. With electric vehicles, stima na maji bana utapigwa shock. Is that a concern that one would come and say, I am having my vehicle in Nairobi and I'm concerned about this?
What I would say again, when you look at the fire suppression systems for electric vehicles, they are, I would say, top notch as compared to the internal combustion engine vehicles. Now, interestingly, when you look at the statistics, 25 out of 100,000 vehicles are what would be damaged in case of a fire. Unlike when you look at the ICVs, where we have a case scenario of 1,500 vehicles for every 100,000 vehicle exposure. Okay, so when you look at the kind of fire suppression systems that have been put in place, the likelihood is much higher on ICVs than electric vehicles. Yes.
Okay. So essentially, EVs are much more safer than ICVs.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
When they're on the road
Yeah.
and they're being utilized.
Yes.
Remember, they use batteries, and
Yes.
batteries, the source of the longevity of the battery, things like lithium, the process of mining them have always been questioned in terms of what they do, in terms of the degradation of the environment and the carbon emissions that come about in the process of actually getting those materials. Yes, but in terms of efficiency and in terms of just the output, in terms of efficiency that you get from an EV vehicle is many more times more than that you'd get from on these petrol or diesel fuel engines. You're talking about 77% of efficiency compared to 20 to 30% of the vehicle that people like myself still use.
So then, based on that, how then do you determine what premiums are going to look like? In terms of what then you would say, okay, in order to cover yourself, do this. How do you come about that?
Now, when you talk about premiums in this aspect, as I mentioned earlier, we look at it from two angles. The chassis frame, okay, that is given a value as per the guidelines. We have insurance guidelines. Now, when it comes to the battery component of it, that's where the innovation has come in terms of what warranties are in place, that determine if what amount of risk you would take as a person. So, in essence, you would have case scenarios where the chassis is insured just like any other normal car. Okay, but you have a separate insurance that is put in place for the battery. Okay, now when you talk about the kind of the rating in itself, we would say a range between 3.5 to 4.5. Again, depending on the usage of the vehicle, is it private, is it commercial? But now when it comes to the battery, I think from about 8.5 to about 1.25% of the value of the battery component. That is the kind of insurance you will have.
But also
in terms of a
remember,
rate.
the lifespan of the batteries are 10 to 20 years.
Yes.
But they can be renewed, meaning the need to buy a completely new battery and to manufacture that many more doesn't arise, because if there's something that can be renewed and its life restored, then it means that that entire process, and by the way, with no loss of efficiency, the people who are in this particular industry seem to have done a lot of their homework, isn't it?
True.
It's like they've looked at all the issues that arose from the vehicles we're accustomed to using and are still using, and they've come up with things that would ensure that everything you would look for, you would get. But there's something that always bothers me about this. We know where petrol stations are. Petrol stations for EVs.
Charging stations.
Near petrol station. Petrol station is generic.
It doesn't matter what.
It doesn't matter what it is, the petrol station. Because, yes.
Yeah, what I would say, and again, I'll agree with you on that, is that I think it's something new to this market. And with that, of course, there's I would say the Kenyan attitude of wait and see how the whole infrastructure comes up and the convenience of it. Now, as you said, it's far and large because from my own experience as Zamara, because we've had a chance to offer insurance solutions for some of these players, especially in the public service sector, is that you'll find that in Nairobi, there's one particular place that the vehicles are taken to for charging.
One.
Yes.
For public service vehicles.
Yes.
Nairobi is big.
Yes. And now what happens is that depending on the lifespan of after every charge, then you go there and recharge for about 1.5 hours or so, then go back to the road. So they usually sequence the timings to ensure at any one point all the charging stations, all the charging systems have a vehicle that they are servicing. So it's one area but with very many charging systems. Now, I think in terms of, again from my experience, in terms of the infrastructure that needs to be put in, remember, this one is not like the normal electricity in our house, the single phase. It's 3 kVA in terms of the kind of the kind of power you need to ensure that a vehicle is fully charged. So you will find that in terms of an investment, it's not something that you would say like, hey, I go outside my estate and put up one, like we've seen. It needs a lot of investment in terms of first of all, having a strategic location, and secondly, ensuring that you have the kind of equipment that is needed to ensure the safety. Again, remember, the petrol stations we have already in place right now, most of them would also like to diversify into offering those kind of services. But remember, at the same time, when the intermix now between the 3 kVA kind of electricity and petrol and all this, I think we need to do a little bit more research on that and also see how best we can take advantage or leverage on existing facilities.
Which would ask the questions, what kind of partnerships do you have with players in this sector, say manufacturers, the charging centers and whatnot? Because yes, I've seen a few petrol stations that have these charging spots. So what kind of partnerships do you have with these players in the sector?
First, I think there's a lot of inquiries from them in terms of the insurance solutions that are there and adequacy of them, given now the shift. Okay. Now, for us, I think, as I've said, is a learning experience for us, even as Zamara, because one, there's limited data. Most of it of what we are able to synchronize is based on our research, from our research and analytics department. Now, based on that, now we're able to say, we have, remember, Zamara itself is an insurance consultant. So we have players like insurance companies, okay, in that ecosystem. Again, also we have the lenders, given the capital, the capex that is needed to set up some of these facilities. So our work is pretty simple. It's just to look, work closely with those players I've mentioned to ensure that, one, the scope of coverage that is provided is adequate and speaks to the need on ground. Then second, because again, for affordability in insurance is everything. Do we have scenarios of partners, from the finance sector who are able now to come in and say, as long as this is watertight and the player you're working with in terms of an insurer is reputable, we will give you insurance premium financing kind of solutions to ensure that the thing is the whole thing is tied up. Yes. And so we work closely with insurance companies, work closely with financials, given that they also have what we call lender insurance requirements for that.
Whenever something is new in the market, there are usually more questions than there are responses. For instance, yes, you mentioned this one station that has many outlets, so it caters for those who need that service within Nairobi. If you are in the know, do we have such stations outside Nairobi?
None that I'm aware of currently. Yep.
See, I ask because the likelihood of these EV vehicles becoming more and more the norm is on the rise, which means, yes. But as they do, other issues related to them will also come to the fore. And again, questions will rise. Like, is it the length of time you've used the vehicle in terms of hours that determines the recharge? Is it the kilometers that you travel? Okay. And when you recharge, what is the length of time that is the guarantee? Then you'll also be asked, what if it isn't a public service vehicle and I need to recharge it in my own house? Are there facilities, are there appliances that one can use? These are the questions I would ask. And if I were to use this in my house and my house is insured, does it pose a threat to my house? Because this is an introduction of something new that probably requires more power. Or if I'm to charge this, am I to switch off every other electrical appliance in my house
to charge
charge my car?
Yeah. I think when you talk about such, there is always the issue of range in terms of, so you'd buy a vehicle that goes, say, around 500 kilometers, you know what I mean? And so that would mean you just do your math from here to Nakuru would be how much? Because I know Naivasha has a charging station.
Kilometers from
yes,
here to Nakuru.
yes. So if you're going there and back, perhaps a single charge would take you and back. But then again, if you're going long range, say I'm living here to Mombasa, where do I get to recharge? Then again, if I need 3 kV in my home, that's an additional cost because nahitaji stima mzito. So how do we handle such?
As I've mentioned, I think first of all, the government as a key player in this needs to, really put in more effort to ensure that these facilities, as you've said, in terms of reaching the population. Yeah. Now, I know there are very many players who are interested in having this up and running as soon as possible. Now, the reason I said, and as you've correctly put it, it depends on utilization. Remember, as long as your phone is idle, or I would say your vehicle is stagnant at one point, there's no utilization of power. Yeah, so it depends on the number of kilometers you're able to do at any one particular time. So with what I would say with evolution, we are seeing scenarios where the cars that are coming out being more long range than were initially. Okay, as an example, initially you used to do like 300 kilometers. Now you can do up to 500 kilometers. So especially I'll give an example of the public sector. That means that is a distance from here to Naivasha, like twice or thrice, no, a return journey, and then by the time you're going back, then the power is down. So in terms of infrastructure, what I know and I'm aware of is that in the key cities, the initiatives that are being put in place, again through collaboration, to ensure that yes, by the time you reach there, the facility is there. But again, you remember the same challenge we had with the hybrid vehicles. Proto, one of the companies, started installing gases on ICVs. I mean, there are very few places you would go to, fill the gas apart from here industrial area. So it's the same kind of challenge. People are waiting and say, hey, with that kind of inconvenience, I'd rather put my 1,000 on my car and travel. Once I'm wherever I am, I add another 1,000 and travel. So it's something I think we need to watch over time and see how that plays out.
Okay. Yeah. So then when you have... does it follow, because obviously we're dealing with a different kind of insurance here when it comes to this e-mobility, and we'll look at sustainability when we come back from the break, but do you then have a difference in how premiums are paid, or would you follow the same way that you would with other insurance?
Okay, in terms of premium payment, again, I said we just delink the two aspects, but come up with a holistic solution.
And does it differ from person to person, or is it just an industry practice how the premiums are paid with e-mobility solutions?
No, it doesn't differ from person to person. Yes, it goes with the limitation. How you use your vehicle. Generally. Is it a public service vehicle? Is it a personal vehicle for your own business or your errands? Yeah, the premium basically is determined in that manner, similar to what we do for the internal combustion engine vehicles. Yeah. No much variation as we speak right now, dependent on your driving habits and all that. I think that, again, once we start seeing traction on telematics, then we'll be able to see premium that is personalized to you in terms of your habits, driving habits and all that, vehicle utilization. Yes.
It is a new system, and with that comes challenges that maybe are not foreseen. And one would beg to ask, when I come to you, is there room for I want third party, or all I want is comprehensive? Do you have such flexibility, or when it comes to insuring EVs, it is this bracket and that's where you fit in?
No, there is flexibility. Remember, by law, what you need for you to be on the road is third party insurance. Okay. Now, when you talk of comprehensive insurance, it's based on your, first of all, appetite. Okay. What do I mean by appetite? It's in terms of risk. Let me call it risk appetite. Yeah?
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. In terms of, in case I was involved in an accident, do I have resources to repair the car with my own resources? Yes. Yeah. Or do I transfer that issue to an insurer? Okay. For consideration of a small premium. So basically that is that. So again, depending on your risk appetite, then you decide, do I go for comprehensive or third party? But in most instances, again, given the what we're talking in terms of complexity of the entire thing, it's highly recommendable you consider taking the comprehensive bit of the insurance, because you see now that burden now is pushed over to the insurer. Remember, once a vehicle is involved in an accident, now you tell the insurer, hey, I've already paid my premiums, this is the paperwork, please put me to the position I was before the accident. You would imagine a scenario where, given now the scarcity of these spare parts and also the batteries and all these things, you will have to source them by yourselves. So you put the burden to the insurer through your risk consultant, who is the broker in this case, to ensure that the providers who are here, who have the capacity and the muscle, bring in and fit in the right kind of equipment. Yeah. I mean, that is the kind of comfort we look for in insurance.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Well, we'll continue with this conversation. We're going to come and look at sustainability, and then you tell us what ESG is all about, and then how this also works in these circles. Fred Muchina is the General Manager of General Insurance and at Zamara Risk and Insurance Brokers Limited. And we're looking at, opening up these fields when it comes to new sustainable e-mobility solutions in the market today. We continue with this when we come back from the break at 9:30.
94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Tina is the General Manager, General Insurance, Zamara Risk and Insurance Brokers Limited. And this morning, as we continue this conversation, we're talking about e-mobility, sustainability, and ESG insurance solutions. So, I mean, looking at e-mobility, that we kind of have an insight into that, Fred. Now, when we talk about sustainability and ESG insurance solutions, what are we talking about, essentially? Let's start with sustainability.
Now, for sustainability, I think the most important thing is to appreciate the fact that over time, insurance has evolved in terms of the kind of solutions that is needed. But we've seen that as time goes on, we've seen issues where even we have emerging risks that have come up with the way society itself is evolving in nature. So the right way to look at it is in terms of how has society evolved over time, and how are we adapting to that, and how is insurance as a risk transfer mechanism being able to provide the correct solutions to ensure that over time we're able to evolve as the risks are evolving. So in a snapshot, it's just about how the macro environment is evolving, and how best insurance is providing solutions in line with the new needs that are coming up. Yes.
Do we see a fast shift from how things have been traditionally done until now, when we're talking about sustainability solutions that, essentially will be sustained over time? Is there a big difference between what has been done before and what is now being introduced?
Yes, there is. Again, when you look at the history of insurance, way back in the 17th century, we used to look at the ships and, yeah. and the cargo that was being carried. Yeah, that is how people used to perceive the need for insurance. Now, development has started kicking in terms of infrastructure coming up, development of cities, and all this. Now, with that, again, we are seeing that there is increasing attention being given. And now, with the United Nations coming in, they are saying now the way we are in terms of development there, and also the societal needs, there's need to look at the whole thing. Okay, so with that, we have scenarios where we are looking at things to do with how do we eradicate poverty, how do we ensure zero hunger, how do we have sustainable communities, okay, and last but not least, issues to do with the kind of energy we have in place. Is it clean? Is it adequate? Okay, so with that, now we are seeing a shift where we are being asked to think differently on the way we provide solutions in that space. Yes.
So you see, companies right now are going green based off the need to have cleaner environments, and also giving back to the society. So say Aceto and the Daughters company has been releasing, say, 20% of CO2 to the environment, but intentionally I decided to lower that by doing what? I have solar systems. My vehicles that I'm using are EVs. So in terms of the green certificate that I have, gives me an upper hand in saying that I am environmentally friendly. When I come to get insurance from you, do I get incentives because I have the green certificates that says he is doing better in terms of carbon footprint in the environment?
What I would say globally, I think that is the practice that we are being pushed towards. Now, internally or locally in Kenya, I think we are lagging a bit behind on that, because this the discussions are just ripe as we speak right now, and there is a strong push in terms of, as you've correctly put it, environment. If you are better at emitting lesser gases, you should ideally enjoy a rebate on that. So those are the discussions we are having with our partners to ensure that people, as we push you towards, our compliance, are there any benefits or any incentives towards that direction? So even in terms of, the kind of solutions we are proposing here, things to do with pay as you go. I mean, if you're not using your vehicle, the internal combustion vehicle, I mean, we shouldn't charge you an annual premium. Only you pick insurance for the period you are using your vehicle. And also, in a way, you're also reducing on the gas emissions to the society. When it comes to the kind of, I would say, you adopting to renewable energy for your house, again, that's an area we're having discussions, because remember, you are contributing to a better environment. And as such, you need to see the impact of that in terms of even the pricing of your products. So it's a ripe discussion, I would say, in the market, and it's something we are trying to work towards. And hopefully in the next few years, because again, remember, insurance is based on numbers and the data that we get. So when we have limited data, again, insurance usually are hesitant to price a risk, again, because of the homogeneity of the same. So we try as much as possible to come up with statistics of what is happening and all that, and also come up with a claims experience or also experience to come up with an appropriate product and also price it right too. Yes.
Do we see that even with the sustainability conversation that we're then able to, is it a conversation that is happening? I mean, we want to sometimes think that the world is here, but we see what's happening in other parts of the world. Do we often, are we in line with what's happening in other places as well?
Yes, we are. And I would say, like for us as Zamara, I think earlier this year, we also subscribed to the Nairobi Declaration on Sustainable Insurances. Yeah, basically saying that moving forward, we want to be part of that bigger or broader discussions in terms of educating the masses in terms of how best to adopt. Then secondly, working in collaboration with other partners to ensure that the solutions that we are bringing in place are able now to incentivize that kind of move towards sustainability and actions that are geared towards that. Yes.
Okay. Talk to us about ESG.
Basically, I think I just break it down. E, environment; S, the social aspect of it; and G, the governance bit of it. So when you look at it from that angle, it becomes very easy. We've spoken about how our behaviors on an individual level, and even as a community, and also as companies, contributes to the emissions that affect the globe. Now, the second aspect of it on environment is about pollution. Okay. Now again, how our practices, are contributing to the increased pollution. I think the discussion right now, every other time government is in place and is talking about things, we hear of Nairobi River and cleaning it up, but people really ask, what can I do as a person to ensure that the environment is safer and contribute to the bigger discussions in line with the government's agenda around that. So basically, I think for us, it's more of looking at environment from a personal level and how the same can be moved even from a corporate level, okay, and a community level where we live and in areas we interact. So on the second aspect of the social, again, it goes with the quote unquote the human rights aspect of it in terms of the workplace. What are we putting in place to ensure that the workplace is adequate and convenient for all our workers? And that again even goes to the home level, because we even have workers at that level. So basically it's all to do with that kind of aspects of taking good care of each other. Governance, again it can only be overemphasized. Good corporate governance is the way to go. And again, remember, one, it goes with compliance in terms of how we are complying with the registration. Okay. Secondly, it goes with things to do with the composition, the people we put into some of these positions to ensure that they drive the agenda that is in sync with the overall ESG objective. Then the issues to do with the transparency and accountability. Again, it just goes hand in hand on the governance aspect of things. Yeah. So when you look at ESG, you just unpack it and look at the various options and the various facets, and then you deep dive on them.
Whenever you talk of insurance, especially if you're talking about something that is fairly new, people want to understand, okay, where has this worked? Without necessarily mentioning names, are there specific fields where, in areas where you provided this insurance?
Yes, I would say, again, even in our own workplaces, one, when you look at a particular cover that we call directors and officers liability, it basically looks at how well companies have been run at the managerial tech and board level in terms of providing what we promise to provide. Now, one of the things we do is interrogate the various aspects of what we've put in place in terms of policy to ensure that we minimize the exposure of that particular institution. Now, when the stronger the policies that are in place, and more experienced the people who are running that agenda for the company, then the premium becomes lower. So it's something that's a real case scenario that is being offered across board, even in this market. From that aspect. When you go to the social aspect of things, again, when we look at how you have put in place in terms of equipment to provide health and safe work environment. Again, that is a consideration we usually put in place when we are pricing the work injury policy, okay, or what is commonly known as WIBA. So those are some of the things we look and say, yeah, based on these kind of things, could you extend a discount? Okay? So, yeah, it's being applied locally.
So today I decided to go green. I have bought my swanky 7 million vehicle and I'm looking for a partner. Why? To insure me, right? Why would I go to Zamara? Why Zamara?
I think as Zamara, one thing we've done is a lot of research in terms of what has come in terms of the level of technology of the equipment that is being put in place. And again, based on that, we're able to, come up with a solution that specifically addresses all the concerns related with the kind and the level of complexity of the machine you've brought in. Okay, so our work is pretty simple. It's just come up with sit down, look at your need at length. Okay, and based on that, now we're able to say now the warranties that are there for the kind of battery system that you have in place. How do you work around this? Do we just say it's a one size fits all? No, because again, remember, different companies, maybe it's from Europe or from China, the warranty period, as you correctly put it, differs. So how does that translate to a cost saving on your end? Secondly, when we talk about things like, when you come to the public sector angle of it, what have you put in place in terms of systems to monitor the driving habits? Okay. Secondly, to motivate people to be safe drivers out there. And based on that, we're able to articulate clearly to an insurer and get for you discounts around that space. So again, it's more of the kind of us working the journey with our research team to ensure that whatever is changing, we are also aware and fully understand what you've brought in and the behaviors around that and get a right solution for you. And that is unique for us.
Right.
Yes.
So then, of course, so the world continues to change, right? And we're looking at rapidly changing activities. So then, of course, to that, there would be solutions that are required as a result of that change. Do you find that adaptability towards that change is something that you invest in? And that, there could arise a situation where somebody has something that you may not have had a quick one to. And if then that adaptability is there, if you needed a quick solution to something, how quick then would be the time that you would go through to be able to say, okay, well, we can create a solution for you? In addition to that, we also see insurance, you can pick now from a buffet, as opposed to when somebody will come to you and say, well, this is what we have, you have to take it. Do we have that kind of adaptability also with these new solutions that we are in now?
Yeah, thank you. I think it all goes back to the way the institution is set to provide these solutions. We as Zamara, I think the biggest resource we have in place is investing in the right talent in terms of data analysts, research team, advisors, okay? And these people, every other time, they have what I can call teams that are put in place to, just research on what is happening, the evolving trends, okay, and how best we can engage our other partners to ensure that we are moving with the times, okay. So I think that's our biggest trend in terms of how best we're able to study our environment locally and globally. And again, remember, Zamara is not only domiciled in Nairobi. We also have presence in 8 other different countries in Africa and also the MENA region. So for us, it's very important that all the teams we have in place, including the legal and compliance team, are able to look at what is happening in the various regions. And again, also we work closely with the global networks or partners outside Africa, who are able also to share with us good insights to help us as we craft most of these solutions. Again, remember, this is a new thing. For example, the e-mobility thing is new. It's a new concept to us in Africa and many of the other countries we are in. So in developed markets like China and Europe, again, we can only learn from them. And so how fast do the teams sit together through peer-to-peer training and understand these concepts? And how now can the local teams, adopt and make it suitable for the local market? So I think that is that. For us, research, data analytics is the most important thing.
Beyond coming to a show like this one to sort of make it plain so that those who listen and those who watch can understand, what other efforts has Zamara made to get the public to understand this?
Okay. I think for us, the way we look at it is on two fronts. One, how do we ensure that even the existing clients are able to understand how the whole thing is evolving in terms of ESG and all that. So wherever we go to meet our clients, I think we are very clear on how we impact the information in a very simple manner. Now, the second way goes to the public, okay? One, I can say we usually have conferences that we do. Secondly, we usually go, again, through social media, WhatsApp, even radio stations like this, just to speak and say these are the kind of risks that are out here. And this is what Zamara is able to put in terms of a solution that best speaks to various sectors. Yeah. So for us, the way we usually approach it is more of the sector. We look at it from a sector level and then see how best we can engage the stakeholders at that level. Now, again, to be more granular, again, we look at the various levels. Are you targeting the C-suite in terms of information? Now, for us as Zamara, again, we look at how best do you impact the information to that level. Do you do like a breakfast for them or an evening, engage them and tell them these are the new emerging trends? And this actually began a while back. When cyber became an issue, remember there's a time nobody used to care about cyber insurance and all these kind of things. But you see, speaking to an ordinary person or maybe a middle level manager, it doesn't make a lot of sense until you get buy-in from the C-suite of that particular institution. So again, it's just looking at the best way to impact the information. That is what works best for us.
You see, when you talk about the research that you do, I want to tie it in with the partnerships that you would have with the people who either assemble such vehicles or bring them into the country. There's always this little mention of pilot. So that beyond just people seeing the vehicles, because it is advertised, this is probably an electric vehicle and so forth, but experience that is expressed by people who have tried it out and know. And this is something that those who supply these vehicles and institutions like yours would be able to provide, so that it's not just one person. Across the societal divide in Kenya, individuals who can say, I supply AB, I do this and this and this, and this has been my experience with this and this and this. When experience is spoken of, and one can identify that, yes, these are wananchi ambao wanaongea juu ya hii, the issue then of insurance is simplified somewhat. What do you think?
Yes, I agree with you because I think one of the biggest problems we've had is to make it look like insurance is all full of jargons and all that. But to be honest, I think the way we try, relay the information, first of all, is by first understanding what is it we are talking about. Okay? The moment I'm able to understand it, then it's easier for me to be able to communicate it to the larger masses. So a good case scenario is when we got the first requests around electric vehicles. I think we did a lot in terms of bringing in players across the industry, people who have traditionally dealt with the ICVs, the internal combustion engine vehicles, and told them, now, this is what has happened in the market. How do we interpret this? Because questions start arising the moment the first car comes in, yeah? And then we have issues that now need insurance intervention. So as such, personally, I think I've been involved in like 3 or 4 key meetings, involved with the key players, to just sit down and first of all demystify what do we do in this case. Because remember, as I mentioned, initially we just used to send a value and tell a valuer, look at that car, give us a valuation report and move forward. But now we have a scenario where you have to break it down. Okay? Now what do we do with the battery system? Now remember, there are manufacturer's warranties in this case. What do you do in terms of ensuring that, irrespective of that, the ordinary mwananchi is able to understand, now in case I have a claim, this is what I do, not taking to Kirinyaga Road for repair. Okay? So for us, by the moment we're able to understand these things, then you're able to disseminate the information and tell them, now, if this happens now, the best way to go about it, this is the like a clearly laid out procedure that you need to follow when you're involved in an accident. Yes.
There are myths out there that I'd rather stick with what I'm used to, the internal combustion engines, because that is what I know, because apparently EVs are expensive to insure. Break that down.
Again, remember, for insurance, it's a rate based on the value. Okay? Now, for personal vehicles, not the public service by and large, you would see scenarios where the guidelines we are getting is to ensure that the higher the value, the lower the rate. Okay? I think there was a lot of hullabaloo in the industry when we tried to do that, and somebody was saying, like, I've had my car for the last 20 years, I've never been involved in an accident. You're telling me now I have to pay more, or you're saying me you cannot get comprehensive insurance as compared to my other friend here who bought a 10 million car, and you are saying now him is low risk. Okay, so what in essence what you're looking at is first of all the technology, because insurance is supposed to take you back to where you were before the accident. So in that instance, if you don't price it correctly, remember the cost after you transfer the burden to the insurance company, then they face a bigger task in terms of sourcing of these spare parts. And again, remember, most of them are not even manufactured locally and not locally available. So even the dollar fluctuation becomes a bigger problem to it. Okay, so for us, I think right now we have a base rate that we work with, again based on the guidance that we have in place. But again, those are the dynamics we look at, and we see that people saying, like, now if you bring a Tesla, you not expect like a 3% rate as compared to maybe a Hyundai that is imported and fully electric. So those are some of the dynamics we're able to look at. Yes.
Of more significance, we see a proliferation of petrol stations. It offers a driver safety. You know, if these fellows don't have fuel, I can go next. I know, because I have a friend who has tested these vehicles. Some vehicles come with a portable charger.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And his experience was that he found he had gone to a certain destination and the charging facility that was there was out of order. So now, use the portable charger. It took him 30 hours. 30. Okay? It's information that is useful to those who bring these things so that they understand. But the guarantees, if I am insured, then I have an inconvenience because that particular site is out of order and I have to spend 30 hours. And if I'm conducting business, would insurance cover my loss of loss of use for that vehicle, which is directly related to the business that I was conducting? Because 30 hours, my friend,
it's a long time.
It's like an entire day gone.
Yes. Now remember, what insurance covers for must be accidental in nature for motor vehicles.
So this one, what I've just said, is accidental.
Yes. Now a malfunctioned charging system. In essence, you're saying you went and found a place where the other party.
Told this is where the charge that is out of order.
Yes. You see, now when you pick comprehensive insurance for your own case, it's accidental caused by you or somebody using your vehicle with your permission. Okay. Now, when I look at it from the aspect of maybe a petrol station that has that charger, and maybe it's malfunctioning and it damages my car, okay? In that instance, it's the other person's insurance that is supposed to take care of this aspect of things. Yeah? Okay. Yes.
All right. Well, I mean, it's good to hear and just to be able to understand, you know, how we're starting to navigate these waters. But we want to thank you for being here this morning and at least being able to hold a hand and walk us through. Its world is changing and it's going to get into those spaces. It's good to get those insights from the get-go. Fred Muchina is the General Manager, General Insurance, Zamara Risk and Insurance Brokers Limited, has been our guest this hour. Thank you so much for being here this morning. And thank you for making it Kenya's biggest conversation through this week and wrapping it up the week with us. We want to remind you that even as we get into the weekend, Edward Carey Francis Quach, dear friends, we lost our brother, we lost our friend, we lost our uncle and our son, Edward Carey Francis Quach, on Monday, the 28th of April, 2025. We thank you for the messages and the condolences, the phone calls, the prayers, encouragement and support. As we prepare to give Carey a befitting send-off, we welcome you to support the Quach family. Carey will be laid to rest on the 10th of May, that's Saturday, at the family home in Simenya, and we will be updating you on the journey towards that day. You can support us through the following pay bill. That's 8061531, and the account would be your name. The pay bill again, 8061531, and the account would be your name. Thank you so much as we continue saying goodbye to our friend. Good morning at 10 a.m.
We shall see you tomorrow.